My name's John Handshoe. I'm from Hazard Independent Schools, and I'm glad our last speaker talked about the periodic table because I'm going in that direction a little bit myself. One of our problems that we wanted to address was student engagement. And in science, I am a chemistry and math teacher, science math teacher. One of our problems that we run into on a regular basis is engaging as many students as humanly possible. Usually, we have a pretty good result. We have good results from laboratories. But there's still the occasional students that we run into issues reaching. So my students and I came up with an idea of another way to possibly engage these students. And if there's anything can be said about science, science exists with a set of rules. And there's nothing more suited to a set of rules than a game. So we looked at, first off trying to make this big, broad game that would encompass biology, physics, and chemistry. And then in order for us to find a common goal for success in this game, we realized that would probably be impossible. So we trimmed it down a little bit. Right now, what we're looking at is a game based on the periodic table, which you brought up, especially in chemistry and several of the other disciplines, science disciplines. The periodic table is sort of the basis. It's like an anchor pin for all the other subjects. So where we are right now with this process, we are looking, and I have both a Chemistry 1 class working on this, plus a Chemistry 2. The reason for this is my Chemistry 2 class has a little bit more chemistry background, a little bit broader knowledge of science. So what we're doing is we're letting our Chemistry 2 work with our Chemistry 1, and at this point we're looking at all the relationships in chemistry that tie back to the periodic table, and there's a bunch of them. And what we want to do, ultimately, is to have a game that will, you know, when you're an expert at a game, that means you know the rules really well. If you're not an expert, but you really enjoy the game, you want to learn the proper way to play it. So what's important to us is to have a valid set of rules. We're not going to just make these rules up. These rules must be based on the periodic law and other laws that associate the periodic table with chemistry. So that's where we're at right now. As a matter of fact, we are working, usually we're giving Fridays to these classes as a period to come up with ideas for this. Where we are right now is we've just dropped this back from this all-encompassing game and brought it back to a place where it's going to be more feasible for us to work with. And what we hope to do, again, in terms of measuring this, once this is put out there, once we've got it put together, and we're not sure yet if it's going to be a card game, a board game, or a combination of both. But once it's put together, we intend on conducting a survey, just basically a student interest survey for a science class. We will plan on giving this to as many teachers that wants to try it, and then measure the results of that after the fact. And hopefully we'll see that there's been a little bit of improvement in their desire to be in their science classes. So, and that's it in a nutshell. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. We thought of that, but looking at the time span that we have to work with, that may be something that we do a little bit farther down the road. I grew up, when I was in college, I'm a child of Dungeons and Dragons. So, you know, so many nights sit down there on the picnic table in the laundry room, you know. So, the time that it would take to bring in an app or something like that, I don't think we'd be able to do in this length of time. But that is definitely something we've talked about. Yes, yes, absolutely. Any other questions? All right. Thank y'all.